Hari. Gopi Janababa Girdhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jātaṁ Vishnupam Sabarajagatāya Stotes at the Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj to the Prabhupada ki. Jātaṁ Vishnupam Sabarajagatāya Stotes at the Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada ki. Go Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 24, Text 10. Bhagavantam param brahma sattvenāṁśena śatru-han tattva-saṅkhyāna-vijñaptyai jātaṁ vidvān ajaḥ sva-rāṭ bhagavantam param brahma sattvena-aṁśena śatru-han tattva-saṅkhyāna-vijñaptyai jātaṁ vidvān ajaḥ svarāṭ bhagavantam param brahma sattvena-aṁśena śatru-han tattva-saṅkhyāna-vijñaptyai jātaṁ vidvān ajaḥ svarāṭ.
Bhagavantam param brahma sattvena-aṁśena śatru-han tattva-saṅkhyāna-vijñaptyai jātaṁ vidvān ajaḥ svarāṭ.
Bhagavantam param brahma aṁśena śatru-han tattva-saṅkhyāna-vijñaptyai jātaṁ vidvān ajaḥ svarāṭ.
Vaishnavis, Bhagavantam, the Lord, param, supreme, Brahma, Brahman, sattvena, having an uncontaminated existence, aṁśena, by a plenary portion. Śatru-han, O killer of the enemy. Vidura. Tattva-saṅkhyāna, the philosophy of the 24 material elements. Vijñaptyai, for explaining. Jātaṁ, appeared. Vidvān, knowing. Ajaḥ, the unborn. Lord Brahmā. Sva-rāṭ, independent. Maitreya continued, O killer of the enemy, the unborn Lord Brahmā, who is almost independent in acquiring knowledge, could understand that a portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his quality of pure existence, had appeared in the womb of Devahūti, just to explain the complete state of knowledge known as Sāṅkhya-yoga. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, it is stated that the Lord himself is the compiler of Vedanta Sutra, and he is the perfect knower of Vedanta Sutra. Similarly, the Saṅkhya philosophy is compiled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his appearance as Kapila. There is an imitation Kapila who has a Saṅkhya philosophical system. But Kapila, the incarnation of God, is different from that Kapila. Kapila, the son of Gardama Muni, in his system of Saṅkhya philosophy, very explicitly explained not only the material world, but also the spiritual world. Brahma could understand this fact because he is sva-rāṭ, almost independent in receiving knowledge. He is called sva-rāṭ because he did not go to any school or college to learn, but learned everything from within. Because Brahma is the first living creature within this universe, he had no teacher. His teacher was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, who is seated in the heart of every living creature. Brahma acquired knowledge directly from the Supreme Lord within the heart. Therefore, he is sometimes called svarāṭ and ajaḥ. Another important point is stated here, sattvena. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears, he brings with him all his paraphernalia of Vaikuntha. Therefore, his name, his form, his quality, his paraphernalia, and his entourage all belong to the transcendental world. Real goodness is in the transcendental world. Here in the material world, the quality of goodness is not pure. Goodness may exist, but there must also be some tinges of passion and ignorance. In the spiritual world, the unalloyed quality of goodness prevails. There, the quality of goodness is called Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. Another name for Shuddha Sattva is Vasudeva, because God is born from Vasudeva. Another meaning is that when one is purely situated in the qualities of goodness, he can understand the form, name, quality, paraphernalia, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word aṁśena also indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, appeared as Kapila Dev in a portion of his portion. God expands either as Kala or as aṁśa. Aṁśa means direct expansion, and Kala means expansion of the expansion. There is no difference between the expansion of the expansion, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. As there is no difference between one candle and another. But still, the candle from which the others are lit is called the original. Krishna, therefore, is called the Brahman, or the ultimate Godhead and cause of all causes. Translation again. Maitreya continued, O killer of the enemy, the unborn Lord Brahma, who is almost independent in acquiring knowledge, could understand that a portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his quality of pure existence, had appeared in the womb of Devahūti just to explain the complete state of knowledge known as Sāṅkhya-yoga. Om Agana Timidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is a gala event, the appearance of Lord Kapila. And it's amazing that amidst what seems to be, at least externally, an intense family drama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is going to appear and teach the science of Sankhya, how to analyze the universe, specifically the elements that proceed from Prakriti, and get to the root of all matter, eventually get to bhakti and the spiritual world. All this is going to be explained to Devahūti. At the end of the next chapter, the Bhagavatam tells us that this interaction of instruction between Kapila Dev and Devahūti is the purest of the pure. And that also it's very confidential. So you may wonder, how could such technology come out of a family affair? Remember, Devahūti married, she wanted children. Her husband told her, yes, but after this son is born, I'm going. And she's lamenting, I've been solidly cheated by the illusory energy. I didn't take advantage of your presence to get transcendental knowledge. I didn't understand fully who you are. So then she gives birth to 9 daughters, married off to the greatest sages of the universe, and Lord Kapila Dev appears from her. So Prabhupada makes the point, why should you critique that Lord Kapila Dev, as the Shastra says, first took shelter of the semen of Gardama Muni, and then entered the womb of Devahūti and appeared? What is the big deal? Srila Prabhupada explains. Lord Nrsingadev evidently appears from a pillar. Varahadev evidently appears from the nostril of Brahma. So if the Lord is everywhere. If he wants to appear from semen, if he wants to appear from a pillar, if he wants to appear from a nostril, still he is ajaḥ, unborn. Of course, we are also ajaḥ, unborn. But due to contact with material nature, we've forgotten our original existence. So yes, Lord Kapila Dev has appeared, and Brahma has come to witness the situation. As the verse says, he's almost independent in acquiring knowledge. He has to meditate for thousands of years to be enlightened from within. Tene Brahma Hridaya Yadadi Kavaye. He's Adi Kavi. He's the original scholar of the universe. So he's almost independent, but not completely. Our disease in material existence is we think we are the independent controllers and enjoyers who have the ability to shape our life to get what we want and fulfill ourselves and be happy. This is our material disease. When we hear the teachings of Lord Kapila Dev, we understand our complete dependency, both on material nature or, take your choice, on the spiritual nature. Now, looking at His Grace Ramaswara Prabhu, I remember at the BBT when Prabhupada asked for the book Teachings of Lord Kapila. And he instructed that there must be in the title, son of Devahūti. So I always wonder, what's the big deal? I mean, who in the West, because at that time, the India Yatra was about 2% of ISKCON in terms of numbers. So I said, who cares whether Kapila Deva is the son of Devahūti or not? But as it turns out, what we call the atheistic Sankhya system is considered in academia as the classical Sankhya system. Atheistic, we call it because it's near Ishvara. Just like you have Nirjala, no water, Nirmala, no spots of contamination, there's near Ishvara. That there's just autonomous Prakriti, material nature, with no controller, no creator. So the Shastra explains, and you'll find traces of that in Mahabharata, as well as the Padma Purana, that there was this so-called duplicate Kapila after the appearance of Lord Kapila. And this duplicate Lord Kapila taught that there's just material nature. We're making it oversimplified, but the main objection we have is Prakriti without any supreme controller, near Ishvara. That's what's become famous in the world as a major part of Indian philosophy. In the 5th canto of Bhagavatam, there's reference to this problem. The residents of Jambudvipa are offering prayers and glorifying Lord Kapila and saying, there's this other system in which you count the elements that have emerged from Prakriti and assume there's no controller and there's no transcendental form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that mistake perpetuated by this imitation Kapila has become massively known as classical Sankhya. So Prabhupada was attuned to that. He was in his time and ahead of his time. I remember while working on his books, I kept thinking, what's all this reference to demigods? Who in the West means ISKCON. Who knows about demigods, devatas? Who cares? I remember speaking to, at that time he was a brahmachari, Jayadvaita, and I said, why is Prabhupada so much speaking about devatas and demigods? I mean, it's just not part of our experience. And he told me, there'll come a time, you'll see, there'll come a time when it's very important for the world to understand who are devatas and who is Parameshwar. Taking knowledge straight from Lord Kapila means authorized knowledge. And sometimes the acharyas point out a crucial point, that the problems of the world stem from a lack of authorized knowledge, authentic knowledge. Just like look at the gaps in contemporary science. There are huge mysteries that the common person is not aware of. Mystery number one, the mystery of abiogenesis. How does life emerge from non-living chemistry? Of course, we know it doesn't, but for others, this is a mystery. How does subjective experience arise from the brain's neural processes? In other words, what's the nature of consciousness? Mystery number three, the origin and fate of the universe. What has caused the Big Bang? And what is the ultimate destination or fate of the universe? Mystery number four, how to resolve the conjunction of quantum mechanics and general relativity. It's something in physics, unification of physics, the theory of everything. And then finally, mystery number five, how do simple life forms evolve into more complex organisms? So if you don't know these things, how to resolve these things, what is your knowledge? So this may sound very complex, but Prabhupada made it simple for us. Life comes from life, and Krishna is the ultimate source and controller. If you want to know how to communicate these ideas and lack of knowledge using current terminology, the Bhaktivedanta Institute for Higher Studies, based in Gainesville, has put out a wonderful course for educating devotees who are not specialist scientists, educate them in how to discuss these 5 mysteries, which are accepted. It's accepted in popular scientific literature. It's also accepted among scientists. These are 5 obstacles, huge obstacles. So by hearing Lord Kapila Dev, you're getting it straight from the source. And that is a great benediction. Because otherwise, what are people left with? They tried for global unity. They tried for global prosperity. Sophisticated terminology for that is cosmopolitan utopianism. Let there be free trade, open borders, rampant outsourcing, and everything will work out as long as there is economics. Never mind who we are, even never mind what the universe is or how the universe started or how it's ending. We can't figure out consciousness, but one thing we know for sure, Homo economicus, not Homo sapiens, but Homo economicus. Make the money and everyone will be happy, everything will be all right. There was one famous Harvard economist who put out a major work with major influence. He called it the moral necessity of economic growth. That in order for there to be peace, in order for human beings to treat each other nicely, in order for human beings to be happy, there must be constant economic growth. And then everyone, because they got money in their pocket, they'll be moral, they'll be nice to each other. There won't be any bitterness, everyone will get along because the economy keeps growing and growing and growing, and it has to keep growing and growing and growing, like a cancer, growing and growing and growing. And if it stops growing, then you see people, unfortunately, become nasty to each other because they don't have the money. So then they become, you can't control them. They have to see the economy is constantly growing. So then, lacking transcendental knowledge, lacking real Sankhya, in which you can understand the difference between matter and spirit and the source of both. Lacking that, you must be in the bodily concept of life. So that's what's going on today. That have a strong bodily identity. Step number 1. Step number 2, there must be an external or outside group that you can be against. And that further strengthens your bodily identity. In this way, you become manipulated by Kali Yuga politicians who understand that the real levers to society, to something happening in society, the real levers to pull when you want to take over or remain in control, don't look for those on the extremes, the extreme left or the extreme right. You've got to deal with the wishy-washy, murky masses. If you can reach them, then you can be in power, you can have permanent control. And how do you reach the masses who are not extreme leftists, not extreme rightists? Make it so that they cannot distinguish truth from untruth. Make it so they give up. Oh, this one says this, that one says that. Who knows? Who cares? Just where's my money? The bigger the lie, the more you say it, the more people consider, could be true. You never know. And I don't have time to figure all this out. This is the best way for society to be, so it can be subjected to materialistic control. So you require two things: a strong group identity. This is political science with the goal of Sankhya. You need a strong group identity, and you need an outside group to blame. One president of the USA, I won't mention his name, 20th century president, said, this is the reality. You take the dumbest, poorest member of the dominant ethnic group, and you convince that most unqualified, most backwards member of the dominant class that he or she is better than the brightest, most expert member of the minority class. You convince him of that. You're better, even though you got no money, you've got no home, but you are of the dominant group. Convince him of that. You're better than the brightest, most intelligent member of the minority group. So the president said, that backwards member of the dominant group will let you pick his pockets. He'll let you go into his pockets and take all his money. He said, well, actually, no. More than that, not only will he let you pick his pockets, but he'll empty out his pockets for you. If you can convince him. You've got the dominant body, and you're better, even though you're uneducated, don't know anything, poor as dirt, but you're better than this dominant, you're better than this, minority, most qualified person. This is the president of the USA in the second half of the 20th century said like that. So this is what you do. This is how you control people. So back to our political science lesson ending in Sankhya. And I'm watching the clock because we want to talk about Bhagavatam, just like His Holiness Bhajirāyan Maharaj spoke about the worldwide campaign that our global Sankirtan office has endorsed, increasing the Bhagavatam sets. We'll get to that with a true life story. But first, what do you want to do if you are a demoniac controller? You don't want people to simply be in anxiety. They must be in anxiety, as Prahlad Maharaj says. Sada samadvigya dhyāmasat grahat. Anyone who identifies with the body as the self must always be in anxiety. But if people are simply in anxiety, then they can't be mobilized to do your bidding. Anxiety is known as an avoidance emotion. Yeah, political science, you got to give a terminology for everything in order to, anyway. So you've got to get people out of the state of being just in anxiety. Something's not right. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's in control. These days are not like the old days. I'm not getting this. My business is failing. My family is falling apart. Who cares? Where's my health care? You've got to get them out of that stage of anxiety, it's not feasible or amenable for mobilization, because you want to mobilize them to do your bidding. So what do you need? You need what's called an approach emotion. Primarily, that is anger. In order to get the people angry so you can stir them up into action, first you have to convince them, hey, take shelter of your bodily identity. That's you. Forget all this globalism. Let's talk about blood and soil nationalism. You are that body. And guess what? Now you have a target for your anger. The other group. They're the cause immigrants or minorities or whatever. They are the cause. And now that we have given you a strong group identity, you already had it, but we reminded you that's the solution to everything. And now that you have an outgroup to focus on, give us the power, march for us, be angry for us, and that will be for the betterment of society. So this is what's going on. Maya's techniques are the same millennium after millennium. Yasyatma buddhi kunape tri dhatuke. Same thing. Anyone who thinks they are the body is no better than an animal. When there is no authorized knowledge coming from an authorized source, how do you expect that there's going to be peace? In his introduction to Chaitanya Charitamrita and Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada points out that there is no difference between the teachings of Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Lord Krishna says, surrender to me. Lord Chaitanya demonstrates, not only teaches, but demonstrates how to surrender to Krishna. But Prabhupada writes further that there's no difference between the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and the teachings of Lord Kapila. So how did Lord Chaitanya teach Sāṅkhya-yoga? He did it in the most appropriate way for the age of Kali. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By chanting Hare Krishna, you're able to perceive the energies of the Lord as belonging to him, and you're then able to feel his presence by that perception. This comes from chanting Hare Krishna. Like Prabhupada says in his monumental essay on chanting, he says that by chanting Hare Krishna, you'll see everything as the diverse extensions of the Lord's energies. Then you can feel his presence. And feeling his presence by seeing all the energies as coming from him, feeling his presence leads to higher and higher stages of transcendental ecstasy. So Lord Chaitanya demonstrated this again and again by seeing the Chataka Parvat, just a sand dune. No, he saw Govardhan Hill by being in the garden of Jagannath Vallabha, dancing in front of every tree as Sup Damodar would sing songs from Gita Govinda. He was in Vrindavan. One example I love to tell is about Lord Chaitanya as Vishvambar. This is before he left Navadvip. He's walking on the streets of Navadvip with Srivas Thakur, and they walk in the vicinity of a tavern, whatever you call it in your country, pub, bar, tavern, and Lord Chaitanya smells the alcohol. What happens next? Balaram Bhava. Because he contains Lord Balaram. He contains all the avatars, all the incarnations. So just by smelling the alcohol, he's now totally lost external consciousness, and he is in the mood, the ecstasy of Balaram and the Varuni beverage in Vrindavan. How does he get from smelling the alcohol to Balaram Bhava? But he's demonstrating, this is real Sankhya. All the energies come from Krishna, and you can feel the presence of the Lord by understanding that. So you would say, well, just walking past a tavern and smelling alcohol and then all this comes about? Yes. So he tells Srivas Thakur, because he's lost external consciousness, he's deep into the ecstasy of Lord Balaram in the forest of Braj, drinking the Varuni beverage. He tells Srivas Thakur, I'm going in. I'm going into the tavern. I'm going in. Srivas Thakur is, oh my God, this is getting too ecstatic. I got to do something. He falls at the feet of Lord Chaitanya and holding on to his feet. You can't do this. You can't do this. And Srivas Thakur is giving him reasons. Reason number one, you are the master of Dharma. You're Dharmapati. Everyone will look to you for understanding what is Dharma. Number two, you're hard enough to understand. If you do this, who's going to understand it? Number three, this will give opportunity for all the blasphemers to increase their blasphemy and go to hell. So you can't go in. And Lord Chaitanya says, am I required to follow the regular principles? Am I required to set an example for everyone? I'm going in. So Srivas Thakur has to think quick. He says, you go in, you enter that tavern, and I'm entering the Ganga and drowning myself. So Vrindavan Das Thakur points out, Lord Chaitanya is Sankalpa Chaitanya. He sticks to the vows, to the determined vows, not only of himself, but also of his devotees. So he told Srivas Thakur, look, I don't want your words to be false. I'm going in, but you say you're going to jump in the Ganga and drown yourself? We don't want to test that out. All right, due to your resolve and due to what you want, my devotee, I won't go in. So then they continue walking, but the drunkards in the tavern saw, hey, it's Nimai! Oh, Nimai Pandit! They're totally drunken. He's so nice, he dances, he sings, he's a gentleman. They all pour out of the tavern and make a huge commotion. Jai Narayan, Hari Bol, they're staggering around. This is a whole scene, a whole commotion. Srivas Thakur just starts crying in ecstasy. Lord Chaitanya is laughing. All this came from just a scent of alcohol seen in the highest ecstasy of love of Krishna, seen as a trigger, experienced as a trigger for Balaram Bhava. So Vrindavan Das Thakur comments that, all right, you would say that these drunkards didn't stop their sinful activities. They went on with it. But they're glorified because just for a few moments, they're chanting Hare Krishna. Maybe they won't get perfection in this lifetime, but that credit of chanting Hare Krishna, being influenced by the waves of Sankirtan ecstasy from Nimai, that will stay with them. So it's not that everyone gets instant liberation. There's a personal relationship between the person and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes they would immediately become transformed right then and there. Sometimes next lifetime. But still the event of encountering Mahaprabhu and his holy name is unforgettable. So this is an example of seeing the energy as belonging to the Lord, feeling the Lord's presence, and then going into the deepest ecstasies. I want to talk about Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, we're getting near the end of class. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which the BBT has been laboriously working on for years, we've taken the pioneering work done by His Holiness Bhanu Maharaj and painstakingly put it through the BBT factory. And It's been hard work for years. How to make the Sanskrit completely accurate, how to make the English beautiful, how to make a comprehensive index. You might think indexes are indexes and translations are translations. You just go to Lowy Bazaar, you get whatever they have. Go to a temple gift shop, who knows what the quality of the rendition is. It could be just a kitchen rendition, never mind. It's Goswami literature, it's this, it's that. Most of our devotees don't understand. Nevertheless, the BBT is working hard to give you first quality editions of our Vaishnava classics. So we've been working hard for that. And when I'm walking around Mayapur, devotees come up to me, Maharaj, where is it? Where is it? I've been saying it's just now coming for about 5 years now, as His Holiness Bhanu Maharaj will be quick to point out. But it's coming this year, barring world war and natural catastrophes. It's coming this year. And let me explain the team that has been so hard at work. We have the main Sanskrit editor, who's had tutelage from Bhanu Swami and mainly from Gopi Pranadana Prabhu, Nityananda Das. He lives in Latvia. Our team is international. He's been working night and day. We have our English editor, our main English editor, Lokaram Prabhu. He's from America, but he's based himself in Mayapur so he can live cheaply and devote his full time to working for the BBT English editing of these Shastras. We have Maharshi Prabhu, who lives in Czech Republic, and he's the production manager, as well as he's an educated Sanskrit scholar. But his main purpose is to manage the production. And then we have in South Africa, Varshabhanavi Devi. She's the copy editor and the indexer. And then in Australia, near Sydney, at New Govardhan Farm area, we have Dunda Karanya Prabhu, who works with the printers. So this whole project is financed by the international BBT directors. So sometime this year, you'll see 5 massive volumes, 700 pages each, with a comprehensive index, explanatory notes. Remember that Prabhupada started Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He did extensive comments on the first 25 verses. And then you have scattered commentaries from Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who commented on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu verses that appeared in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And of course, the mainstays, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So we're working so hard on this, and I forgot to mention Ananta Sarovara Devi Dasi. She did her PhD in Rupa Goswami's literature. She is consulted about any difficult translation and editing issues. So we're doing all this work, but who knows about it? Who would ever find out? In comes the global book distribution minister riding on his horse. We will have a BBT marketing department and start a club called the Shastra Mandala, where you can sign up and get in. You can sign up in advance and get hot off the press, get the first batch of these Shastras. So in this way, the whole world will find out about this superlative edition of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, meant to be the gold standard for the ages. Now, Jiva Goswami explains that Rupa Goswami was talking about 3 different locations for his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He's talking about the city pastimes in Mathura and Dwarka. He's talking about Braj, and also he's talking about a category which may surprise you, leaving Braj, Krishna's leaving Braj. So he says, all these categories are directly in relationship with Krishna, but there are three categories of readers. And Jiva Goswami explains that Rupa Goswami is going to satisfy and make happy all of these three categories of readers. Category number one, those who follow in the footsteps of the city Leelas in Mathura, Dwarka. Category number two, those who follow in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And category three, those who are attracted to the pastimes of Krishna leaving Vrindavan. No, got that wrong. Those who are attracted to both the city Leelas and the Braj Leelas. So Rupa Goswami is going to satisfy them all. How does he do that? Jiva Goswami explained that this is what Rupa has in mind. That number one, the devotees who are attached to the city pastimes, they're happy by hearing about Krishna in Braj, Krishna leaving Braj, Krishna in the city. They don't mind hearing about Krishna in Braj, the city devotees, because they're thinking, soon our Vasudev Nandana is coming to Mathura. Soon he's coming to Dwarka, and we'll hear some tales about Braj, and we'll be so happy in that way because he'll be here in the city. He's coming. So naturally, they don't mind hearing about Krishna leaving Vrindavan. And of course, they want to hear about Krishna in Mathura and Dwarka. Then what about those who are attracted to both the city Leela and the Braj Leela? They take happiness in all three. Krishna being in Vrindavan, sure. Krishna departing Vrindavan, sure. Krishna living in the city, sure. Because they are mixed. They go for everything because it's all in relation to Krishna. Now, here's the catch. What about the Brijbasis, those who are following in the footsteps of the Brijbasis? How to make them happy? That is a problem, it seems. Because even when they hear about Krishna in Braj, they're thinking, along with the happiness, that he could be leaving. He could be leaving at any moment. So their happiness is mixed with transcendental distress. And certainly those who are following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of Braj, they don't get happiness by hearing about Krishna departing Braj. And when they hear about Krishna's city pastimes, Mathura, Dwarka, they're simply thinking, when's he coming back? It's uncertain when he's coming back to Vrindavan. So that doesn't make them happy. But yet, Rupa Goswami insists that the nature of everything in Braj is happiness. If you want to find out the details of how that can be so, you have to read Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So finally, I'll give you a hint. It's given in Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatana Goswami. He says, the happiness of Ayodhya stands on the head of the happiness of Vaikuntha. The happiness of Dwarka stands on the head of the happiness of Ayodhya. And the happiness of Braj stands on the head of the happiness of Dwarka. Indeed, the distress of Braj stands on the happiness of all these other places. So I'd like to read from you, in honor of our global Sankirtan Srimad Bhagavatam focus. I'd like to read to you Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's closing statement, finishing the third canto. He writes, being ignorant, I do not know the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, but I have made a commentary according to my intelligence because of a desire for the Bhagavatam's association. Offering respects to all living beings up to Brahma in the universe, I ask for their mercy. Having been made capable of understanding it, I have completed the commentary on the third canto. On the bank of the Yamuna River, at the foot of a desire tree in Sri Vrindavan, on the 8th lunar day of Ashvina month. That means early 18th century, approximately 300 years ago. So he's finished living on the bank of the Yamuna at the foot of a desire tree. That immediately makes us think of how Prabhupada did his commentary on Bhagavatam. He left Vrindavan for our benefit. He came to the West with only the first canto. And he traveled the globe so many times, waking up in the middle of the night in this foreign city, that foreign city, this continent, that continent, working on Srimad Bhagavatam. So much so that in his last days, when he could practically not speak, laying on his back, in a condition that anyone would have been crying out constantly in pain, he's commenting on Srimad Bhagavatam, that glorious 10th canto, chapter 13. Our Yadubar Prabhu, humble devotee, if you ever see him, request of him, as I've done several times, give us your memoirs, write you some memoirs. He's got amazing things to say. How in Prabhupada's last days, he was by Prabhupada's bed, and he asked Prabhupada, because Prabhupada's medical condition was so excruciating, he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, are you suffering? Prabhupada said, no. He's not from this world. Some other things Prabhupada, he told him personally. Prabhupada was leafing through a Time magazine, which during that year and that part of that era was the top news magazine of America, and it was distributed all over the world. So every week it would come out with news of the USA and some international news. So Prabhupada, somewhere or other, saw a copy in the Calcutta temple, and he started leafing through it, and he turned to the devotees, including Yadubar, and said, if you only knew how bad your leaders are. He also said something else. You'll have to ask Yadubar about this because I'm not going to complete it. He called Yadubar in privately and said, take it from me. He's speaking about the moon. I won't finish it. You'll have to ask Yadubar Prabhu. Take it from me. So reading this closing remark by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur caused me to think deeply of Srila Prabhupada's. All glories to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but Prabhupada didn't complete his commentaries on the bank of the Yamuna. He completed his commentaries on deathbed, where he could practically not hear his voice. So how valuable is Srimad Bhagavatam? Do I have 10 minutes to say something? I will give a personal story about the pricelessness of Srimad Bhagavatam from the viewpoint, from the life of a solid denizen of Kali Yuga. I had no intention to be a devotee. In May of '72, now those of you from ISV, ISKCON Silicon Valley, and those of you from ISKCON Newtown, Calcutta, bear with me because you've heard this before. In May of '72, finishing my final exams, I saw on television a nationwide TV program called The David Susskind Show. He was the headline newscaster of the day, and he had his own show, 1 hour. So I happened to turn on the television. I'll make it short. And there were these devotees, 20 of them. And they were describing their lifestyle. They were preaching in their own way. They didn't have our gallant Anuttama Prabhu, ISKCON Communications. They didn't have him to train them up. They were just gushing with enthusiasm. Every other word was Ananda, bliss, you'll be blissful, Ananda. That was the key preaching of the time. Ananda, Ananda. And they concluded with ecstatic kirtan with the classic Hare Krishna kirtan ecstasy pose. So I remember watching with my roommate, and I said, oh my God. I remember Jayadvaita, then Brahmacharya lit up. I said, look at this guy, he's lit up like an electric bulb. They had some saintly Matajis there. I believe Rukmini Devi, Yogamaya Devi. These girls looking pretty good. What are they up to? So I thought, flower power hippies can't do anything practical for the world. Somehow or other, the next month, I got one of Prabhupada's books, and I was shocked. I thought, wait a minute, what is going on here? I have never read something so authoritative, something so comprehensive, something both in the world and out of the world. I've never seen anything like that. I've had the finest education in the world since the age of 14. I've been around the most materially brilliant people. I have never read anything like this before. My mother started teaching me to read when I was 3 years old. I've read everything. Where does this knowledge come from? I remember His Holiness Bhanu Maharaj, his first approach to Prabhupada was, where did you get that knowledge? In your books, where does it all come from? So I decided I've got to get more books by this Swami whose name I can't pronounce. But I don't want anything to do with those hippie devotees. I'm going to just read the books, and that way I'll stay away from those strange people, but I love the books. So I read on my own 3 hours a day for 5 months. Bhagavad Gita, read it twice. Teaching of the Lord Chaitanya, read it twice. Isha Upanishad, twice. Nectar Devotion, twice. Krishna book, twice. I was getting my books from the BBT mail order. I had it all figured out, how not to associate with devotees. But because my name was on the mailing list, one day I get an envelope from the BBT with a flyer inside saying that for the first time, the deluxe version of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, is coming out. Because up until that time, in late 1972, there was only the very crudely printed versions that Prabhupada brought over on the Jaladuta from India. So this brochure described, this is the encyclopedia of the spiritual world. I said, wow, I've got to have this immediately. It takes all the themes of Bhagavad Gita and expands upon them. So, wow, I can't wait 2 weeks for this to come in the mail. I've got to take a risk. I've got to approach a devotee, one of those strange flower power aliens. So I knew they are distributing books in this huge bus terminal in New York called Port Authority. At any moment, there are like 3,000 persons rushing back and forth in this bus terminal. Sometimes I would observe the devotees from afar, making sure they would never approach me. Who are these strange people? I love their books, but I don't know. So I said, but now, to get Srimad Bhagavatam, I've got to take a risk. So I got on the subway from Upper West Side of Manhattan down to Midtown Manhattan and walked into the bus terminal, and I thought, let me see. I saw this one lady standing in the middle of thousands of people racing back and forth. I saw this one lady, sorry, with the white mark on her forehead. I said, well, let me see if she stops me. There I was with my Sai Baba hairstyle and long leather, suede leather coat, cow killer coat. And so I walked past her once, walked past her twice, didn't stop me. I said, okay, for getting Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm going to take the supreme risk. I'm going to walk up to her and get the book. So I thought, I'll just walk up to her and ask an everyday question, which anyone would ask. I walked up to her and said, do you have Srimad Bhagavatam? Her eyes just, obviously, once in a lifetime, someone comes up to a Sankara devotee and says that, especially in 1972. Her eyes just, and then she said very coolly, she was expert. This devotee, Her Grace Daivi Shakti Mataji. She's been in Vrindavan for more than 50 years. So she was expert. I didn't know it, but I had walked voluntarily into a trap. She had a program for herself that it's called a devotee a day. Every day, she would, in Port Authority bus terminal in New York, she was going to meet someone who would become a devotee. I didn't know that. I was already hooked by reading Prabhupada's books, but I had no intention to associate with devotees. I never have been to a temple, bhakti vriksha, whatever you want to call it. I had never been there and had no desire. So I walked up to her and asked, do you have Srimad Bhagavatam? She caught herself. She just, how do you know about that? I said, lady, I'm not here to answer questions. I just want to know, do you have the book? But she was expert. You know, you look like a very educated person. Where did you go to school? I said, don't worry about it. She said, tell me. I told her. She said, well, if you're not rich now, you're going to be rich. You can help us. We want a new building in New York. It's going to be just for persons like you. It's going to have theater, restaurant, auditorium, classrooms, and a temple room. Everything a person like you would want. I thought, well, it does sound pretty nice. I could just visit and go away. Then she said, you could probably give some money. I said, what? I've never given a penny in charity in my life, and I'm not about to start now. She wouldn't give up. She wouldn't give up. She was empowered by Srila Prabhupada. So finally I said, look, I'll leave it to you in my will. She said, you don't even have a will. Of course I didn't have 21 years old. What am I doing with a will? Then I said, what I thought would be the ultimate escape route. I said, whatever money I have is uptown Manhattan at my father's house where I live. She said, let's go. I said, wait a minute. I don't go on trains to my home with a girl looking like you. I couldn't get rid of her. Make a long story short, she escorted me up on the subway, and we went to where I lived, and I'll translate the money amount in terms of today's financial equivalents. I went up, I said, you stay downstairs on the street. I'm not taking you up to my family's home. This strange looking girl, flower power lady. I came down on the elevator and gave her a check for $5,000. She looked at me and said, this is very nice, but I think you can give 10. What is this? I'm 21 years old. I've just graduated from university. I give you a check for $5,000 and you ask for 10. I couldn't convince her otherwise. So I went back up on the elevator, came down with my checkbook. I took the $5,000 check back from her, gave her a check for $10,000. I thought to myself, that's it. And I didn't get the book. I didn't get the Bhagavatam. 2 weeks later, I was passing through the same bus terminal, and the devotees, they all saw me. There he is! I said, oh no! Again, the same thing happened. I couldn't get rid of them. I guess I had read too much of Prabhupada's books. I couldn't get rid of them. Up to my father's house, same process. Came down with a check for another $10,000. So I had given $20,000 in 2 weeks in today's financial equivalents. And so they told me, look, you've given so much money, why don't you come to the temple and see where all your money's gone to? I said, well, that sounds like the best idea I've heard. Yeah, let me go see where my money has gone to. I still didn't have Srimad Bhagavatam. But my point is, I was desperate for Srimad Bhagavatam, willing to pay that kind of money to get my hands on Srimad Bhagavatam. So there are people in this world, whether they know it or not, who are desperate for this knowledge. What Kapila Dev is teaching is Bhagavat-saṅkhyā, not Nirishwar-saṅkhyā, no controller saṅkhyā. He's teaching Bhagavat-saṅkhyā, which looks to the uneducated eye as similar to Nirishwar-saṅkhyā, saṅkhyā without a controller. It looks similar, but the crucial factor is left out, no Bhagavan. So that's why at the start of chapter 25 of the third canto, Jiva Goswami has pointed out a verse at the start of the chapter 25 of third canto. Kapilas tattva-saṅkhyāta Bhagavan Atmamaya. He's Bhagavan, this Kapila, and he's teaching Sankhya that results in bhakti to Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare. So please send a prayer to Her Grace Daivi Shakti Mataji. She's going through a health challenge. Not only me did she meet in Port Authority Bus Terminal, but she also met our Chandramali Maharaj. I told this story in the lively yatra of ISKCON Calcutta, Newtown. And they had an audience, a specially gathered audience of IITians and young professionals, and there were a few older, established businessman type persons there. So I told this story, and it was humorous. After I spoke, some established, older Indian businessmen came up to me and said, this is what they took from the talk. Swamiji, can you give some tips? How did you have so much money at the age of 21? Can you give some tips, please? If you ever have a chance to visit ISKCON Newtown, Calcutta, you'll find it a thriving project full of enthusiasm, youthful, intelligent devotees, vibrant. It's a wonderful experience I had there. All right. Yes. When did I get Srimad Bhagavatam? After I started attending the temple in New York. I got the first copies that arrived on the East Coast. What was my experience? Couldn't get enough of it. I was a Kali Yuga denizen. I say this in glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. I had the best education since I was 14. Scholarship student at elitist boarding schools and top of the Ivy League. When I read Prabhupada's books, I said, I have been around the best intellects. I have never seen anything like this before. That was my experience. I have to have more. I have to have more. I'll do anything to get more. This is the impression Srila Prabhupada's books had on me. And there are millions of people in the world waiting in the same way. They just haven't had that opportunity. Anything else? Let's ask someone. Let's see if someone else. What's the best part? Oh, that's another part of the story. my first seeing of Srila Prabhupada. I'll save that for another time. But remember the real heroes of this tale. Her Grace Daivi Shakti Mataji. Prabhupada's divine daughter. Please say a prayer for her health challenge. And this goal of distributing more and more Bhagavatam sets. People are hungry for this. I remember once distributing books myself at Port Authority bus terminal, this huge bus terminal in New York. And my academic advisor from Yale happens to walk by. So as a Sankirtan devotee, I knew just what to do. I approached him with Bhagavad Gita, and he remembered me. He remembered my Karmi birth name, Lee. I know you're a searcher. Is this it? Have you found it? He was sincere. He wasn't being sarcastic. Have you found it? He's asking me. He's the big shot academic department head. But he knows he knew he didn't know what he needed to know. Is this it? Have you found it? He was like desperate. I said, definitely. Give a donation. Anything else? Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. His Holiness Srila Devamrita Swami Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees.